You've probably heard it 100 times. Your observation shapes reality. But what if I told you that's only half the truth? For years, I obsessed over the observer effect. I meditated, visualized, did everything the experts said. But my life still stuck. It wasn't until I lost everything, my job, my health, my sense of self, that I finally discovered the real secret, hiding in plain sight. Not just a theory. I lived it. And what happened next shattered everything I thought I knew about reality. Today, I'm sharing the hidden quantum shift that goes way beyond what most people ever experience. Something that doesn't just change what you see, but changes who you are at the core. And if you watch just the next few minutes, you'll feel this shift begin in your own body right now. Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right, but reality just won't move? Type "ready" in the comments if you want to break that cycle. Let's do this together. Because this isn't another video about theory. This is about the moment everything can actually change for you. I remember the first time I heard about the observer effect. It sounded like a cheat code for reality. Just watch, just focus, and the universe shifts. So I did what any curious person would do. I watched, I focused, I tried to twist reality with the strength of my attention. First, it felt magical. Every time I closed my eyes and pictured something good happening. A new job, a sudden windfall, a relationship fixing itself. I'd get this jolt of hope. I thought maybe this is it. Maybe this is the moment everything clicks. But then I'd open my eyes, and my life, it looked exactly the same. Same bills on the table. Same messages left on read. Same knots in my stomach. No matter how much I tried, reality seemed to stay stuck, like an old record skipping on the same line. It made me wonder, if this observer effect is so powerful, why isn't it working for me? Am I doing something wrong? Is there a step I'm missing? That doubt grew louder each day. I started noticing the same stories popping up in videos, in books, in podcasts. Quantum physics proves your thoughts create reality. Focus and manifest your dream life. It was everywhere. And yet, I was still here, staring at my unchanging life, feeling more frustrated and confused than ever. I thought maybe I wasn't believing hard enough. So I tried harder. I watched manifestation videos late into the night, writing out affirmations until my hand cramped. I built vision boards, visualized outcomes, forced myself to feel high vibe. But deep down, there was a quiet emptiness. Felt like pretending. Felt like I was just putting on a show for the universe, hoping it would reward me for good behavior. But the truth? I wasn't fooling anyone, especially not myself. One day, I sat in my room, surrounded by sticky notes and crystals, feeling completely worn out. It was quiet except for the hum of my anxiety. I stared at the words on the wall. Observe, believe, receive. I wanted to believe. I really did. But belief alone wasn't breaking the loop. That's when it hit me. Like a splash of cold water, I'd fallen into a kind of quantum trap. I was so focused on the observer effect, I'd missed the bigger picture. The real issue wasn't about watching or focusing harder. The problem was hidden in the way I was using my awareness. It was like trying to change the channel with the wrong remote. No matter how much I pushed the buttons, nothing happened. I was stuck, not because the quantum world is a lie, but because I was missing a piece of the puzzle no one talks about. Let me explain it in the simplest way possible. Imagine you're at a concert watching your favorite band. The music is loud, the crowd is buzzing, the energy is wild, but you're only watching. You're not singing, not moving, not letting yourself get swept up in the moment. You can see the party happening, but you're not really in it. That was me with manifestation. I was trying to change my world by standing on the outside, looking in. I thought my mind was the magic, that if I could just think the right thought, observe from the right angle, I could bend reality to my will. But the truth is, I was just circling the edge of real change, too scared to step fully in. And here's the wild part. I'm not alone. Most people in this space get caught in the same loop. We become obsessed with watching, with thinking, with doing it right. But we stay separate from what we want. There's always this invisible wall between us and the life we dream about. And every time reality stays the same, it feels more and more personal, like proof that we're broken or not spiritual enough. But what if the observer effect isn't the whole story? What if focusing harder, thinking bigger, and trying to attract more is actually keeping us locked in place? That's the piece no one told me. That's the piece I want to show you. Let me take you back to a moment that changed everything for me. I'd lost my job. I was months behind on rent. My relationship had turned cold, then silent, then gone. My health took a dive. Some nights, I'd lie awake, feeling like the air was too heavy to breathe. I tried every manifestation hack out there. Affirmations, gratitude journals, acting as if, you name it, nothing worked. Not a thing. And then one night I gave up. I mean, really gave up. Not in a sad, hopeless way, but in a stripped bare, I've got nothing left kind of way. I let go of the effort. I stopped trying to fix, change, or manifest. For the first time, I let myself just be, without judgment, without a goal, without chasing a new outcome. And in that empty space, something unexpected started to happen. It wasn't dramatic, at least not at first. But as I sat there, not trying to be anyone special, not trying to create or attract, I felt a strange quiet. It was like a warm stillness washing through my body, soft but powerful. For a moment, the endless chatter in my head faded into the background. My breath slowed. My mind stopped chasing the next technique. And in that moment, I realized I'd spent years trying to change my life from the outside, when the real shift was waiting on the inside. Not in my thoughts, not in my rituals, not in my vision boards, but in the part of me that was always watching, always observing, always separate from what I wanted. Suddenly, it clicked. The observer effect keeps you locked in the role of the watcher. But to change reality, you have to stop being the outsider. You have to step inside the experience. You have to become the music, not just the person in the audience. That realization hit me so hard I felt dizzy. For the first time, I saw the truth. It's not about making reality change by observing it. It's about shifting the place you observe from. Because if you're always watching, always analyzing, always hoping, you're never fully living. You're always a step removed from the life you want. So why does everyone talk about the observer effect like it's the magic key? Simple. Because watching feels safe. You get to feel like you're doing something. You get to analyze, plan, research, visualize. But you never have to risk really changing, really leaping, really being the version of you that already has what you want. It's like standing at the edge of the pool, toes in the water, reading books about swimming, listening to experts tell you how it feels, but never actually diving in. I lived on that edge for years, always hoping for a miracle, always disappointed when life stayed the same. But here's what no one says. Miracles don't happen when you're on the outside looking in. They happen when you become the new reality, when you stop trying to watch your way into a better life and actually step into it. That's when things started to shift for me. Not because I finally believed hard enough, but because I stopped pretending I was separate from the life I wanted. It wasn't about controlling my thoughts or pushing for a certain outcome. It was about letting go of the identity that was always on the outside. For a few minutes that night, I felt a kind of wholeness I hadn't known was possible. And after that, things in my world began to move. A job offer came out of nowhere. People I hadn't spoken to in years reached out. Problems that felt impossible to solve started solving themselves. It was as if reality finally got the memo, because I finally stopped sending mixed signals. I stopped being the person who wanted change and started being the person who could live in it. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Is it really that simple? Can just shifting your way of being make all the difference? The answer is, it's not only simple, it's the only thing that really works. But here's where it gets interesting. This isn't just my story. Over the last year, I've met dozens of people who went through the same process. Every single one of them got stuck at the observer effect stage, thinking their thoughts alone could change the world. Every single one only broke through when they stopped being the watcher and started being the experiencer. This is what nobody tells you. The observer effect is a doorway, not the destination. And most people spend their whole lives staring at the door, never realizing it was meant to be walked through. The real quantum shift isn't about watching reality. It's about entering it so fully, so completely, that the old you, the one who was waiting, hoping, observing, just dissolves. When you step through that doorway, reality starts to move with you, not against you. And suddenly, the universe isn't ignoring you. It's dancing with you. So if you're tired of feeling stuck, tired of hoping, tired of watching life pass you by, here's the question that will change everything. Are you ready to stop being the observer and start being the experience? Because in the next chapter, I'm going to show you the one thing that keeps people stuck in endless cycles and how to break it for good. What I'm about to share is the key that turns the lock and opens the door to a whole new timeline. You don't want to miss what comes next. This is where everything starts to change. Let's talk about the loop. Not the good vibes only loop. The real loop, the one you live in day after day, even while you're trying to change your life. Most people don't even notice it at first. You try to think positive. You say your affirmations, you stick your goals on the fridge. Maybe you even meditate in the morning. But as the day goes on, that old feeling creeps in. It's like an invisible current, pulling you back into the same worries, the same habits, the same stories you swore you'd leave behind. You wake up with hope. By noon, the doubts are back. By night, you're scrolling on your phone, thinking, maybe tomorrow will be different. I know that pattern better than I'd like to admit. I spent years convinced I was just one breakthrough away. A new technique, a new book, a new moon ritual. But every time I tried something new, I'd feel this little rush of hope. Like this could be the thing that finally flips the switch. And for a day or two, it almost felt like it worked. My mood would lift, my mind would quiet down, and the world would seem softer, lighter, almost golden. But then life happened. A bill I wasn't expecting. A phone call that didn't come. A weird comment from someone at work. Suddenly, I was right back where I started. It was as if my life was running on autopilot. No matter how hard I turned the wheel, something deeper kept snapping me back to the old route. If you're nodding along, you're not alone. This isn't just about you, or me, or even bad luck. It's the same for almost everyone I've ever met who's tried to change their reality from the outside. It's the classic, why do I keep repeating the same patterns? Question. So what's really happening here? Why do we get stuck? Here's the secret no one talks about. Most of us are running on programming. Not the programming you got in school. Not even the stuff you learned from your parents. I'm talking about the deep, invisible code that your nervous system picked up from every experience, every disappointment, every not enough moment since you were a kid. See, we're told to think new thoughts or focus on what you want. But your body, your emotions, your whole system is running the old script. That's why it feels so hard to break free. No matter how hard you try to stay positive. It's like planting seeds in rocky ground. The soil just won't let anything new take root. Let me give you a real example. Back when I was at my lowest, I'd have these days where I swore I'd start over. I'd write down new goals, set intentions, even rearrange my space to raise the vibe. But I noticed something weird. No matter how much I tried to feel inspired, my body felt heavy, like I was carrying an invisible backpack stuffed with bricks. My chest would get tight. My jaw would clench. My mind would race with worries I thought I'd outgrown. The truth is, my nervous system didn't trust change. It had learned, over years of letdowns, that hope leads to pain, that dreams are dangerous, that it's safer to expect the worst than risk wanting more. So every time I tried to step forward, some deeper part of me would hit the brakes. Not because I was weak, not because I was lazy, but because my whole system was wired to protect me from disappointment. Think about it like this. If your phone is running an app in the background that drains the battery, it doesn't matter how many times you turn down the screen brightness. The power still disappears, and you're left wondering why it won't hold a charge. Your beliefs, your habits, even your reality are built on the programs running in your body, in your nervous system, in the stories you've rehearsed 1,000 times. This is why change feels so hard. It's not because you're broken. It's because you're trying to build a new house on an old, cracked foundation. Most people never see the loop. They just blame themselves. They think, if I just try harder, maybe I'll break through. But trying harder from the same place never works. You end up running in circles like a hamster on a wheel. Lots of effort, but you never actually leave the cage. Here's where things get really sneaky. Our minds are brilliant at convincing us we're making progress when really, we're just moving the furniture around in the same room. We binge new techniques. We read all the books. We tell ourselves, this time is different. But deep down, our nervous system is still running that old story. Change isn't safe. It never works out. Don't get your hopes up. Took me a long time to see the pattern. Honestly, I didn't want to see it. I wanted to believe that thinking harder, trying harder, would eventually be enough. But it never was. One night, after another failed manifestation experiment, I sat on my couch in the dark, just feeling empty. I realized I wasn't tired from working hard. I was tired from working against myself. All my effort, all my hope, all my rituals. None of it was landing because the foundation inside me wasn't ready to receive. That was a sobering moment. But it was also the beginning of something new. For the first time, I asked myself, what if I'm not stuck because I'm doing it wrong, but because I'm doing it from the wrong place? What if all the quantum hacks in the world can't work if my nervous system still thinks change is dangerous? I wish someone had told me sooner, you can't build a new life with the same wiring that kept you safe in the old one. And the more I looked, the more I realized, the real loop isn't just mental. It lives in your body, in your energy, in the split-second reactions that happen before you even have time to think. That's why breakthroughs feel rare. That's why the same patterns keep showing up, even when you swear you're done with them. Here's the wildest part. Once you see the loop, you can stop blaming yourself. You can stop fighting against your own nervous system. You can finally start working with it. Because there's a way out of the loop, but it's not what you think. It's not more effort or more willpower or more positive thinking. It's about rewiring the foundation at the level where the real change happens. So let me ask you, do you ever feel like no matter how much you want something, some hidden part of you keeps pulling you back? Do you ever catch yourself repeating the same old story, even as you try to write a new one? If so, you're closer to a breakthrough than you realize, because seeing the loop is the first step to stepping out of it. But here's the key. If you only try to escape the loop by fighting it, you just get tangled up in it all over again. If you try to fix yourself, you end up reinforcing the story that something's wrong with you. What if, instead, there's a different way, a way to shift not by force but by working with the deepest parts of who you are? What if the same energy that kept you stuck could actually set you free? That's what I'm going to show you next. Because in the next chapter, you'll discover the single shift that lets you move out of the loop, without fighting, without pretending, without endless self-help hacks. If you've ever wondered why change feels impossible, you'll finally have your answer. But be ready, because what comes next might flip everything you thought you knew about change on its head. Let's get real for a second. Most people think the breakthrough comes from more effort, working harder, visualizing better, stacking up new habits like they're building a fortress. But if that worked, you wouldn't be here right now, still searching for something that finally sticks. The truth? My real shift started when I hit a wall hard. It wasn't a quiet nudge either. It was life yelling at me to stop running, stop fixing, stop pretending. I had just lost my job. My bank account was a disaster. My phone was full of unread messages, most of them bills and a few "Are you okay?" texts I didn't want to answer. I remember sitting there, late at night, lights off, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I'd used up all my tricks. I tried to meditate. Nothing. I tried to write affirmations. They sounded hollow, like someone else's words echoing in an empty room. I tried to visualize the perfect life, but all I saw was static. It felt like my whole world was holding its breath, waiting for me to admit what I already knew. I couldn't push anymore, so I stopped. That night, I sat there, letting the heaviness sink in, feeling every uncomfortable thought and fear, letting them wash over me instead of fighting them. For the first time, I didn't scramble for a solution. I didn't search for a silver lining. I just let myself be lost, confused, tired. No mask, no spiritual hustle. It was terrifying, but also, strangely, there was relief in it. I wasn't giving up on life. I was just letting go of all the ways I'd been trying to control it. In that surrender, something quiet shifted. The room was the same. My problems hadn't disappeared. But inside me, there was this space. Like someone cracked open a window in a room I didn't even realize was stuffy. It wasn't peace, not exactly. It was more like space. Room to breathe, to feel, to just exist for a moment without expectation or pressure. And as I sat in that space, I noticed something even stranger. My thoughts started to slow down. The anxiety that always buzzed at the edges of my mind faded to a whisper. My shoulders dropped. For a moment, there was nothing to chase. No story to uphold, no identity to defend. This wasn't some overnight miracle. Nothing flashy happened. But when I woke up the next morning, something inside me felt lighter. I wasn't fixed. My problems hadn't vanished. But I wasn't fighting myself anymore. That was the moment I realized how much energy I'd spent trying to outsmart, outrun, or outshine my own fears. How many mornings I'd woken up with the weight of should on my chest. I should be further along. I should be happier. I should have figured it out by now. But in the silence of surrender, all those voices lost their power. See, real change doesn't start with more effort. It starts with giving up the battle against yourself. Surrender isn't about failure. It's not giving up on your dreams or abandoning hope. It's letting go of the need to force, to fix, to prove. It's dropping the armor you've been wearing so long you forgot what it feels like to breathe without it. When you finally stop pushing, something surprising happens. Your system, mind, body, energy starts to recalibrate. You stop running loops of not enough. You stop rehearsing all the things you're supposed to do. Your nervous system, which has been on high alert for years, begins to relax, even if just for a moment. And in that moment, there's finally space for something new to enter. Not because you forced it, but because you stopped blocking it. It sounds almost too simple, right? After years of techniques and effort, how could just letting go do more than all that work? But that's the paradox. Change doesn't come from pushing, it comes from allowing. I remember the days right after that night of surrender. It felt weird, like I was floating through my own life. I didn't have a plan, but I wasn't panicking. I didn't have answers, but I wasn't scrambling for them. I started noticing things I'd never seen before, little moments of kindness from strangers, small chances to say yes to something new, ideas that would drift in, unforced, during the quietest parts of my day. Opportunities began to appear, not because I was manifesting harder, but because I finally wasn't gripping the wheel so tight. A friend called, offering me a freelance gig that helped pay my bills for a month. A conversation that I dreaded turned out to be honest and healing. Things didn't magically fix themselves, but for the first time, life didn't feel like a fight. Here's what I learned. Surrender isn't the end of effort. It's the beginning of real movement. When you let go of control, you make space for a deeper intelligence to move through you. Call it intuition, call it the quantum field, call it God, call it life. It doesn't matter what you name it. What matters is that it only shows up when you finally get quiet enough to hear it. Most people spend their lives wrestling reality, always trying to get it to match some mental picture. But the universe doesn't respond to struggle. It responds to presence. Surrender is what drops you into presence. It's what lets you feel the ground beneath your feet. It's what allows the moment to be enough, even if it's messy or uncertain. I wish I could say surrender feels natural, but honestly, it feels like jumping off a cliff. It's uncomfortable, unfamiliar, and your mind will do everything it can to pull you back into effort, into old patterns. But if you stick with it, even for a few minutes, you'll notice what I did. A gap opens up between you and your thoughts, between you and your old stories. In that gap, new possibilities can finally breathe. It's not about giving up your dreams or goals. It's about giving up the struggle that was keeping you from living them. So, what's the difference between surrender and quitting? Quitting is laced with defeat, with hopelessness. Surrender is full of quiet power. It's a deep, calm trust in something bigger than your fear, something more real than your old beliefs. And here's something wild. When you surrender, your nervous system feels it. You start to notice tiny shifts. Your breath deepens. Your muscles unclench. Your mind stops spinning for just a moment. And in that moment, the universe starts to meet you in ways you couldn't imagine before. You stop asking, How do I fix my life? And start noticing, what is life trying to show me right now? Surrender isn't about letting go once and hoping for the best. It's a daily practice. Some days it's easy. Some days you'll have to remind yourself 100 times to drop the struggle and just be present. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. And the more your reality starts to change. Not because you forced it, but because you're finally aligned with it. So let me ask you, what are you holding on to right now that's keeping you in a loop? What would happen if, just for a moment, you stopped trying to figure it all out? Because the magic doesn't come from the next big technique. It comes from the space you make when you surrender. That's the doorway to everything real. In the next chapter, I'll show you exactly what happens inside you when you let go, how your entire system, your energy, even your biology starts to shift without you having to force a thing. If you've ever wondered what it feels like to finally be out of the loop, to feel life moving with you instead of against you, what comes next will change the way you see yourself forever. Don't miss this, because the biggest transformation is about to begin. If surrender is the moment you finally stop wrestling with life, then what comes next is even stranger and more powerful. Because once you stop fighting, you start noticing something you probably missed for years. Most of what you call you isn't really you at all. Let me explain. After that night when I finally let go, I spent days feeling empty. But not the bad kind of empty. More like someone wiped the fog off a mirror, and for the first time, I could see clearly. It was weird. I'd always thought my thoughts, my routines, even my worries, were just me. But now there was all this space inside, and I could see the thoughts, the habits, even my self-doubt kind of floating by, almost like they belonged to someone else. I realized I'd been carrying around this heavy identity my whole life, the person who tries hard, the person who fixes problems, the person who's always on the edge of a breakthrough, but never quite there. I was wearing this old suit made out of my past. All the moments I felt disappointed, all the ways I tried to fit in, all the stories about why things didn't work out. It all built up, layer by layer, until it felt like my actual skin. Maybe you know what that's like. You want change so badly, but no matter how much you try, there's this hidden part of you whispering, "That's just not who you are. That's not for you. Stay in your lane." It's like there's an invisible wall between the life you dream about and the life you've always known. And what nobody tells you is, most of the time, it's not the world blocking you. It's your own identity. The stories you've lived in for so long, you don't even realize they're stories. For me, it was the identity of the striver, the one who never gives up, but also never truly arrives. My nervous system was addicted to effort, to struggle, to the drama of almost there. That old identity kept me looping, no matter what I tried on the outside. But when I surrendered, even for just a night, the grip of that identity loosened. Without all the effort, the stories didn't have anything to hang on to. And that's when I saw it. I wasn't just watching my thoughts. I wasn't just watching my feelings. I was watching myself, the character I'd been playing, thinking it was real. At first, that realization was uncomfortable. Who am I if I'm not the person who's always hustling for a breakthrough? What's left if I'm not living in those same old stories? But the more I sat in that emptiness, the more I realized something incredible. When the old identity melts, you don't disappear. You become more real than ever. It's like a snake shedding its skin. All that dead weight falls away, and underneath, there's something alive, something new, something that was always there but hidden under layers of who you thought you had to be. Here's the wild part. Once I stopped trying to force change from my old identity, new possibilities started to show up on their own. People treated me differently. Sometimes they couldn't even say why. Opportunities I'd been chasing for years just landed in my lap, almost casually. I started to notice that when I wasn't stuck being the struggler, my energy shifted. I walked differently. My voice was stronger, clearer. I wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. The universe didn't care about my old story. It responded to the version of me who finally stepped out from behind it. Now, maybe you're thinking, if I let go of my old identity, won't I lose myself? But the truth is, you only lose what was never really you in the first place. All those shoulds, all those limits, all those roles, you don't need them to be loved, to be safe, to belong. The freedom is on the other side of letting them fall away. And here's something else most people never realize. Identity is fluid. You can choose moment by moment which version of you is steering the ship. Most of us let the past drive our future. We believe old evidence, old patterns, old stories, and call it reality. But reality isn't built on what happened to you before. It's built on who you decide to be now. I can't tell you the exact day my identity shifted for good. It wasn't a single moment. It was a series of little choices. Each time I caught myself slipping into the old suit and decided, even for a minute, to wear something new. Maybe it was the first time I spoke up for myself without second-guessing. Or when I reached out for help and didn't feel ashamed. Or the morning I looked in the mirror and saw possibility, not just the past. Each time, a piece of the old story broke off and fell away. This is what nobody tells you. You don't have to wait for the world to change before you do. You don't need a sign, or permission, or perfect circumstances. The shift begins when you stop trying to upgrade the old identity and just let it go. And when you do, you tap into something wild, a deeper intelligence, a spark that isn't interested in struggle or survival. It's the part of you that's always been ready for more, even when you were scared. When your identity melts, you're not left with nothing. You're left with pure potential. The quantum field responds not to your old story, but to who you're willing to be now. So if you feel a little lost, a little shaky, as the old patterns start to fade, good. That's the sign you're actually changing. You're stepping out of the echo chamber of your past and into the blank canvas of your future. But be warned, the old identity will try to pull you back. Your mind will feed you reasons why it's safer to stay the same. Friends, family, even your own inner critic might whisper that it's risky to let go of who you've always been. But you're not here to live on repeat. You're here to discover what's possible when you stop building from the old and finally open to the new. So here's my question for you. Who would you be without your favorite old story? What's possible if you let go of the struggle, the self-doubt, the almost but not quite? Because in the next chapter, I'm going to share the one thing that turns this new sense of possibility into actual physical change. The practice that bridges your new identity with a new reality. If you want to know how to anchor this shift in your nervous system and see it reflected in your life, what comes next is where the transformation gets real. You're closer than you think. There's this moment, after the old identity starts to melt away, when things feel both exciting and uncertain. It's like standing at the edge of a brand new world, but your feet haven't quite left the ground. You see glimpses of who you could be, but something inside you wants proof, real evidence that this isn't just in your head. That's when I learned what really changes everything. Not thinking new thoughts, not just believing harder, but becoming the signal. Let me explain what I mean. For most of my life, I was doing all the right things on the outside. I'd say the affirmations, picture my goals, repeat the stories of who I wanted to be. But if I'm honest, it was always just mental, like putting on a costume and hoping no one would notice the nerves underneath. I'd walk into rooms hoping people would see me differently, but inside I still felt like the old me. Awkward, trying, waiting for permission. It's no wonder my world reflected the same patterns back to me. It's no wonder the magic never lasted. But the day things began to truly shift wasn't the day I tried harder. It was the day I started to feel different. Not just think about being confident, but stand like I was. Not just wish for abundance, but move as if I already lived in that reality. I stopped looking for signs and started being one. Here's the wild truth. Reality doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to the frequency you broadcast. If you've ever walked into a room where someone just has it, that certain spark, a grounded confidence, a sense that they belong, you know what I'm talking about. They don't have to announce it. You just feel it. I used to think those people were lucky or born that way, but it's not luck. It's embodiment. See, your body is always broadcasting a signal, your energy, your posture, your tone, your micro-expressions. And that signal is either reinforcing your old story or sending out a new one. Most of us try to change our lives by fixing the outside. But the quantum field is listening for the inside. After I let go of my old identity, I started a new experiment. Every morning, I'd ask myself, if I was already the person who belonged in my dream life, how would I stand? How would I walk? What would my face look like? Right now. First, it felt weird, like pretending, but something subtle happened. When I walked like I belonged, people started treating me that way. When I spoke with more trust in myself, conversations shifted. When I moved through my day as if good things were inevitable, little coincidences started showing up. The world wasn't just mirroring my thoughts. It was mirroring my state. You can't fake this. You can't act as if while secretly doubting every step. But when you decide, even for a minute, to let your whole body, your emotions, your breath, your energy, line up with the life you want, the universe pays attention. Here's an example. There was a meeting I dreaded, with people who always saw me as the old version of myself. Normally, I'd shrink, second-guess, try to keep the peace. This time, I made a tiny shift. Before I walked in, I took 3 deep breaths. I reminded myself, I'm not here to prove. I'm here to be. I let my shoulders relax. I let my voice drop into my body instead of floating in my head. And something wild happened. People listened differently. The conversation moved in a direction I'd never seen before. I left that room feeling lighter, more grounded, almost surprised at how easy it felt. It wasn't magic. It was a new signal. After that, I started looking for ways to practice embodiment everywhere. Ordering coffee, taking a walk, answering emails. Every little choice became a chance to tune into the version of me I wanted to be, right here, right now. The old patterns didn't vanish overnight. Some days I'd slip back into doubt or catch myself shrinking into the old role. But the more I practiced embodiment, the easier it became. The gap between who I used to be and who I was becoming got smaller and smaller. It's not about pretending or faking confidence or repeating empty mantras. It's about letting yourself inhabit the new reality, even if only for a few breaths at a time. Think of it like tuning a radio. If you want to hear a new song, you can't just wish for it or think about it. You have to move the dial, even if the signal is fuzzy at first. But as you tune closer, the static fades and the music gets clear. Your life works the same way. Your actions, your energy, your focus, they're all part of your frequency. And as you align them, reality meets you at your new signal. This is the real quantum shift. Not fighting to make something happen, but becoming the place it happens from. Most people wait for life to prove that change is possible. But life is waiting for you to become the proof. So what's a practical way to start? Start small. Pick one area of your life where you want to feel different. Ask yourself, how would I stand, walk, speak if this was already true? Then let your body and breath lead the way, even if your mind is still catching up. You'll notice little things start to change. People respond differently. Opportunities that felt out of reach show up. You start to feel more like yourself. Not the old self, but the one you've been waiting to become. Here's the best part. You don't have to earn this new identity. You don't have to fix yourself or wait for some perfect moment. The door is open right now. All you have to do is step through it. Every time you choose embodiment over old habits, you reinforce the new reality. Every moment you let your actions match your highest vision, you send out a stronger signal. And the quantum field, it's always listening. So are you willing to become the signal, even before you have the evidence? Because in the next chapter, I'm going to show you what happens when your new signal meets the world, how synchronicity, luck, and rapid shifts start stacking up when you stop waiting for proof and start living as proof. This is where the magic starts to get undeniable. There's a moment, sometimes subtle, sometimes so obvious you almost laugh, when you realize something out there is paying attention to your new state. And it's not just your imagination. I remember the first time I noticed the shift. I was walking down the street, feeling more present than usual. My phone buzzed. It was a friend I hadn't heard from in years. Texting out of nowhere, "Hey, I was just thinking about you." A little thing, right? But the timing was so uncanny. I just started practicing showing up as the real me, not the anxious, apologetic version I used to be. That was just the beginning. Over the next few weeks, coincidences started stacking up. A check showed up for something I'd forgotten about. A stranger held the door with a smile right when I needed a boost. Opportunities arrived that didn't make sense logically. Old problems started melting away, sometimes before I even knew what to do about them. People call it luck, or maybe just a good day. But when you see the pattern, you realize life is mirroring your signal. See, when you're living in the old identity, you're sending out static, uncertainty, self-doubt, second-guessing. You could be doing all the right things on the outside, but if you're tense, resentful, or waiting for the world to change first, nothing lands. But the second you start embodying your new frequency, reality begins to organize around you. It's like invisible gears shifting in the background. You notice it in small ways at first. Maybe someone reacts to you differently, a little more respect, a little more kindness. Maybe you suddenly get the urge to take a different route home and find yourself avoiding traffic. Maybe you feel lighter, your body less tense, your mind more open to possibility. For me, it wasn't just the good luck stuff. It was the way old problems stopped feeling so personal. If a challenge showed up, I met it from this new, steady place. Instead of panicking or spiraling, I could breathe, look around, and handle it. That's quantum coherence. When your inner world and outer world start syncing up, like two tuning forks vibrating in harmony. I started tracking these shifts. I kept a little notebook by my bed, jotting down every impossible coincidence or unexpected help, and it became a game. The more I noticed these patterns, the more they showed up. Not because I was forcing it, but because I was finally tuned in to receive. Friends began to ask, "What's different about you? Did you get a new job? Fall in love? Win the lottery?" But it wasn't anything you could see from the outside. It was the frequency I was holding inside and then outside. If you're wondering what this feels like, imagine this. You walk into a room, and instead of shrinking or scanning for approval, you take a breath and just be. You feel the ground beneath your feet. You make eye contact. You don't rush to fill the silence. You let yourself take up space. And people notice, not because you're being loud, but because you're coherent. You're broadcasting a clear, strong signal. This is what people mean when they talk about magnetic presence. It's not a trick or an act. It's your nervous system finally aligned, no longer fighting itself. The wild part, your body feels it first. You might sleep better even with less time. You crave better food, move more, smile more. It's not discipline. It's your biology lining up with your new frequency. And then the world starts playing along. People show up to support you, often unasked. Opportunities appear with perfect timing. Parking spot opens up just when you need it. Project lands in your lap at the right moment. Sometimes, it's so random you have to laugh. Is this magic? Not really. It's quantum coherence in action. You're not chasing. You're not waiting. You're not shrinking or apologizing for wanting more. You're living as if what you desire is already part of you. And life responds. If you keep a journal, start writing down the synchronicities. Track the little wins. You'll see the signal getting stronger. And the more you notice, the more you train your nervous system to expect support instead of struggle. Here's something most people miss. The real sign that you're living in quantum coherence isn't just what shows up out there. It's how you feel in here. Calmer, more creative, less reactive. You trust yourself even when the outcome isn't clear. You don't need every answer to feel safe. People will tell you, you've changed, but they can't quite put their finger on how. That's because you're not just playing a new part. You've changed the script entirely. So let me ask, if you could live even one day in this coherence, what might show up? What if you stopped waiting for proof and became the proof yourself? Because in the next chapter, we're taking this to a new level. You'll see how this coherence isn't just for big moments, but for daily life. How your choices, relationships, even your health shift when your signal is clear. Get ready. The world is about to start showing up differently for you. Imagine waking up and, instead of bracing yourself for what could go wrong, you feel this quiet confidence, almost like life is nudging you forward before you even get out of bed. I used to think that kind of ease was only for special people, gurus, spiritual teachers, the ones who always seem calm and unbothered. But then, bit by bit, I started noticing it in my own life. It didn't come from a massive breakthrough. It started with a choice over and over again to tune in, to check my signal, and to align myself before reacting. Most days, the world tries to pull you back. Emails, notifications, old triggers. But living from the field means you don't let the outside set your frequency, you set it first. I remember a morning that could have gone badly. I woke up late, my phone full of urgent messages, the old script whispering, "See? Same old you, always behind." But instead of spiraling, I paused. I put my hand on my heart, took a breath, and chose to tune in. What would the aligned me do now? Instead of rushing, I made tea, stood by the window, and reminded myself, the field responds to my state, not my stress. Here's what happened. The emails were still there, but somehow I handled them faster. The problem I dreaded turned out to be nothing. People I thought would be frustrated were actually understanding. The whole day moved more smoothly, not because the world changed, but because I did first. When you live from the field, synchronicity becomes your new normal. You get the right call at the right time. You feel drawn to take a different route and avoid traffic. A friend mentions a book or an idea you just started thinking about the night before. You start trusting these nudges. You stop needing to figure it all out and start letting inspiration guide your steps. There was a time when I thought being in alignment was something you had to chase, like a reward you got for being spiritual enough. But living in the field isn't about chasing anything. It's about becoming the space where good things happen naturally. Think of it like this. You're a tuning fork. If you're vibrating in stress, the world around you seems chaotic and tough. But if you're vibrating in clarity and trust, the world can't help but harmonize with you. It doesn't mean you never have bad days. You still get frustrated, you still get tired, you still face challenges. But your baseline has shifted. Instead of getting pulled into every storm, you find your center faster. You become the eye of the storm, not untouched by life, but unshaken by it. One of the biggest changes? You stop feeling like you have to control everything. When you're living from the field, you move from a sense of sufficiency, not scarcity. You don't need to grasp for every opportunity, chase every dollar, cling to every relationship. What's aligned flows in. What isn't falls away with less drama. Relationships shift too. You're drawn to people who feel like a yes in your body, and the old draining connections quietly dissolve. Conversations go deeper. You listen better, you're less reactive, and others feel seen just by being in your presence. Work changes. You're more creative, less stressed, and you spot openings and solutions that used to be invisible. Health improves, often in subtle ways. You sleep deeper, eat what feels good, feel drawn to move your body. Not out of discipline, but desire. But here's the most empowering part. None of this is luck, and none of it is reserved for a chosen few. It's the natural result of living from the quantum field, of letting coherence and embodiment become your daily rhythm. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to never slip up. You just keep coming back again and again to your center, to that knowing that you are the field, and the field responds to you. The first few times, it's like learning a new instrument. You make mistakes, hit wrong notes, feel awkward. But soon, you find the melody. You catch yourself in an old pattern, and instead of judging, you gently retune. You notice synchronicity, and instead of dismissing it, you say, "Thank you, more of this, please." And life listens. So, as you go about your day, try this. Whenever you catch yourself spiraling or chasing or doubting, pause, take a slow breath. Ask yourself, what would my field feel like if I already trusted life? Then let your next move come from that place, even if it's just a tiny shift. Little by little, you start living from the field, not just in meditation, but in traffic, at work, with family, in those small, messy moments where real life happens. This is how alignment stops being something you do and becomes something you are. And here's where things get really fun. In the next chapter, you'll see how your signal and coherence don't just transform your personal life. They ripple out, quietly shifting the people and spaces around you. What if the way you show up could actually lift others into their own field just by being you? Stick with me, because the impact you're about to have might surprise you. You know the most surprising thing about living in the field? It doesn't just change your experience. It quietly changes the world around you. I used to think my vibe was just my own private business. What difference could it make to anyone else if I felt more aligned? more trusting, more open. But I started noticing the ripple, first in small ways, then everywhere. There was a day I walked into a cafe, feeling calm, present, just happy to be alive. The person at the counter was clearly frazzled. Orders piling up, customers impatient. That look in their eyes that says, "I need this day to end." Normally, I would have rushed, kept my head down, maybe matched their stress with my own. But this time, I just smiled, took a slow breath, and greeted them like a friend, even if we'd never met. It wasn't much, just a moment, but their shoulders dropped. Their voice softened. I could see it. My state was contagious. A simple kindness, a presence without an agenda. It shifted something. They relaxed. The next person in line smiled. A tiny ripple moving out from a single point of coherence. And it didn't stop there. I noticed it with friends who usually brought drama. Suddenly, our conversations felt lighter, less tense. At work, the meetings where I stayed grounded often went better for everyone, even people who didn't know why. It's not magic. It's resonance. Science shows us that our heartbeats, our breathing, even our brain waves sync up with the people we spend time with. When you're in a coherent state, your presence is like a tuning fork, helping others even unconsciously to align. Think about a time you were with someone who just felt calm, steady, kind. Didn't you leave feeling better? That's the ripple. Most of us go through life thinking we have to change others, convince, argue, fix. But when you change your own frequency, you give everyone around you silent permission to shift too. Sometimes it's obvious. Someone who's always negative suddenly cracks a smile. A tense family dinner turns into honest laughter. You notice people open up in your presence, share things they never told anyone else. Other times, it's subtle. Maybe people just seem more at ease around you. Maybe old conflicts start dissolving, almost without effort. You're not saving anyone. You're just holding a different energy. And the field takes care of the rest. There was a time when I thought the only way to make an impact was to say the perfect words, have all the answers, lead from the front. But now I know, the most powerful change happens without a script. It's in how you listen, how you stay open even when it's hard, how you hold space for possibility, not just for yourself, but for everyone. Sometimes, the biggest ripple is just not reacting the way you always did. Not taking the bait. Not joining the spiral of gossip or complaint. Not shrinking to fit in. Just being the field right where you are. Over time, you'll notice people seek you out. Not for advice, but for the feeling they get when they're with you. Strangers start opening up. Loved ones confide in you. You become an anchor, steady, reliable, a quiet leader, even if you never call yourself that. And yes, there will be moments where your new coherence makes others uncomfortable. Some people might drift away. Old patterns that no longer match your frequency will fade. But what remains and what grows is so much richer. You'll find your people. Those who resonate, who lift you up, who celebrate the real you. Your circle may get smaller, but the connections get deeper. So, if you've ever wondered, does any of this really matter? Is my personal transformation just for me? Here's your answer. It matters more than you know. Your energy, your presence, your willingness to live from the field. It's an invisible invitation for the world to meet you there. You don't have to change everyone. Just become the change and let the ripples do their work. In the next chapter, I'll show you how to spot the real signs of transformation, the proof that you're not just thinking differently, but living from a new timeline. You'll see how these ripples add up, quietly reorganizing your entire reality. And soon you'll look back and realize everything has changed. There's a point where all the talk about vibration, coherence, and alignment stops being theory and starts showing up as solid proof in your real, everyday life. You'll know you're there when things that used to feel impossible start happening almost by accident. Maybe it's the way you handle challenges that once sent you spinning. Suddenly, you don't overreact. You breathe, you trust, you move through the moment without losing your center. Problems don't disappear, but they stop feeling like personal attacks. You see solutions you never noticed before, sometimes without even trying. You might notice people responding to you in new ways. Friends who once dismissed your dreams start supporting them. Someone who never listened now hears you clearly. Strangers seem more helpful, more open, as if the world itself is rooting for you. Synchronicity gets undeniable. It's not just that you think positive and good things happen. It's that what you need has a way of finding you. You think of someone and they text. You set an intention, and the next step reveals itself, sometimes in a way you never could have planned. And then there are the big shifts. You land a new job almost out of the blue. A project comes together with less struggle. You meet a partner who matches your new self, not your old wounds. Sometimes the change is quieter but just as real. You find yourself saying no to things that drain you, yes to things that light you up. You stop needing to be fixed. You simply feel more like yourself, relaxed, creative, open. One day you realize you're living the life you once tried to visualize, only now it feels normal. Not forced, not distant. A reality you can reach out and touch. That's the proof. It's in your nervous system, calm instead of chaos. It's in your choices, brave, even when uncertain. It's in your timeline, one that's not a repeat of the past, but an unfolding of something new. And the wildest part? The proof multiplies the more you trust it. The universe rewards coherence. The more you spot the synchronicity, the more it shows up. The more you trust the nudges, the more you get. If you keep a journal, look back over the last few weeks or months. Notice the patterns. Notice what's become easier. Notice the way things just work out, sometimes at the last minute. This isn't about ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect. It's about finally living in a reality that matches the new frequency you're sending out. It's about moving from old cycles to new timelines. If you ever start to doubt, if you wonder, is this really happening? Am I making it up? Pause, breathe, and look at the evidence. The way you feel, the way you show up, the way life responds. Because the proof is everywhere once you know how to see it. And here's what's truly powerful. You become the kind of person who trusts life, not just when things are easy, but even when they're not. You know that the field is always responding, always organizing around your state. You stop needing guarantees because you know how to shift the signal anytime. So here's my challenge to you. Start gathering your own evidence. Notice the small wins, the little shifts, the moments of grace. Write them down. Let them remind you that you're not on the old path anymore. Because in the final chapter, you're going to see how to anchor this new timeline, how to commit to the upgrade, and make quantum coherence your true, unshakable foundation. Get ready. The most important part of your transformation is coming next. You've made it this far, and that's not just a small win. It's the beginning of something real, something that lasts. By now, you've done what most people never do. You've moved beyond just wishing or thinking about change. You've stepped out of the old observer role and actually started to live from the new field. You've watched your reality begin to mirror your state, seen proof in the little things, and maybe even in some big ones. But here's the truth. This upgrade isn't a one-time event. It's a daily commitment, a new kind of loyalty to yourself, to your growth, to the version of you that's ready for more. So how do you make this new timeline stick? How do you keep the coherence, the signal, the alignment alive, especially when life gets messy or the old patterns try to sneak back in? Here's what I've learned. Anchoring your quantum shift is less about grand gestures and more about small, consistent choices. First, celebrate the shifts, no matter how small. Each time you notice yourself acting from presence instead of fear, that's a win. Each time you catch a synchronicity, take a second to thank the field. Write it down, share it, anchor it. The more you celebrate, the more your nervous system relaxes into this new normal. Second, keep returning to the field. You don't have to meditate for hours. Sometimes, it's just a deep breath at a red light, a slow walk without your phone, a silent minute before a meeting. Ask yourself, what frequency am I broadcasting right now? And if it's not what you want, just retune gently, no judgment. Third, connect with others on this path. Isolation feeds the old identity. Find community even if it's just one person who gets it. Share your stories, your struggles, your wins. Your coherence helps anchor theirs and vice versa. Fourth, stay open to growth. Even now, there will be days when you feel off, uncertain, triggered. Don't see this as failure. It's just another chance to come back to the field, to realign, to remember who you are. The more you do this, the more natural it becomes. Finally, make a declaration, a small ritual to anchor your commitment. You can say it out loud, write it down, or type it below. I am committed to living from my highest timeline. I trust the field. I am ready for more. Let this be your reset button, your anchor, your promise to yourself. The field is always responding. It's always listening. And the more you show up, the more it shows up for you. So as you move forward, know this. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing. Willing to notice, willing to shift, willing to try again. Every day is a new invitation. Every moment is a chance to return to your coherence, to your quantum identity, to the reality you're creating now. And the world, it's waiting for you to claim it. So celebrate. You're not just a watcher anymore. You're a participant, a creator, a living signal of what's possible. The old story is over. The new one is yours to write. Take a moment right now. Breathe. Feel the field around you, within you. Make your declaration. And let yourself feel the pride of this commitment. Because this is where the real magic starts. Not out there, but right here, right now, in the choices you make, the presence you bring, the coherence you anchor every single day. Welcome to your new timeline. Welcome to the field. Welcome to who you really are. Now let's see what happens next.